this is Brian Calle, and I'm here with the CEO of CKE Restaurants, Andy Puzder. Andy, thanks for joining me today.
Glad to do it, Brian.
Thanks. I want to talk to you a little bit about the business climate in the country and how it's affecting businesses like CKE and how political policy is impacting the way you do business. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, sure. The big thing for our business, which is fast food, Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, is the unemployment. When the unemployment rate is hovering in the double-digit range, it's very detrimental to the business, and it's been double-digit now in California for a number of months. So it's very hurtful. We're up around 12.3% on the rate that excludes, a bunch of people. The real rate's probably 17, 18, maybe even 19% in California. For our target demographic, which is young, hungry guys, it's up around 30%. Government policy is really impeding the ability of businesses to grow, to hire, to build new businesses, to open new businesses, and it's doing it in a number of ways. One is people are uncertain about what their taxes are going to be. We've got a 2-year tax deal, and the president keeps saying he wants to raise taxes. So businesses that are trying to do a business plan really can't go beyond 2 years with any comfort on taxes, and if the president had his way, they'd be higher now. So people are worried about taxes. Healthcare, nobody can figure it out. The best estimate I got was that our healthcare costs were going to go up 150%, from $12 million to $30 million. Well, that money has to come from somewhere, and generally it will come from new unit development, building new restaurants. It will come from capital expenditures that we make to maintain and to grow the business. And of course, if you're spending those monies on healthcare, you're not spending them to grow your business. Another way is energy. The EPA's out there. They want to limit carbon. They want to drive the price of gas up and oil, which will impact heating costs, air conditioning costs, the ability of people to drive, and also it'll drive food costs up because food has to be delivered to the restaurant or to the grocery store. And then lastly, there seems to be a big push by this administration to unionize and to support the unions. And unions drive labor costs up. So the more businesses unionize, the higher labor costs go. So if you're trying to do a 5-year business plan, if you're an investor or a business and you're trying to plan out 5 years, which is normal, that's generally what you want, you can't really forecast your expenses with any certainty, and you certainly can't forecast your revenues because the economy seems to be going the wrong way. So if you can't forecast your revenues and there's a lot of capriciousness with respect to your expenses and what the government's going to do to impact them, it's very difficult to invest, and you don't have job growth, and you don't have job creation, and you end up in a malaise, which is what we've been in for the past 2-3 years.
Now, typically, or historically, or in recent years, CEOs have been reluctant to speak out because they're afraid of retaliation. But in recent months, you've been very, very outspoken, but I think you've always been pretty outspoken. You've had one of the founders of Home Depot come out, Steve Wynn's come out, various other CEOs, even in Orange County, have come out. Do you think that's because the regulations are becoming so overbearing with this administration?
It's that, and it's the fact that the economy, if you're in business, we know what needs to be done to fix the economy. The government really right now is kind of holding entrepreneurs down. If they would just let go, jobs would grow, and it's very frustrating. If they just would let go, we'd have job creation. And people like Steve Wynn and like the founder of Home Depot, at some point you just feel like, God, I have to say something. I can't sit back and watch this anymore. The numbers came out this morning for the first 6 months of this year from the Commerce Department, and it's the worst it's been in a long time. It's not getting better. What they've been doing and are doing isn't working. The business community, the private sector, knows what to do. Let us do it.
And that's what your new book is about, right?
That's correct.
And what's the title of it?
Job Creation, How It Really Works, and Why the Government Doesn't Understand It.
That's one of the questions I get wherever I go is, why aren't businesses creating jobs? And the answer, I think, is, well, we're not being allowed to.
We're being actually prevented. And I know that the people who are doing this are well-intentioned. I don't really doubt I know there are people out there that doubt their intentions and think people are trying to bring the country down. I don't think that. But I do think we're dealing with, look, in the White House today, there aren't a whole lot of people that have more business experience than a general manager of one of my restaurants. My general managers run a $1.2 million business and a $1 million facility. They have P&L responsibility. They have to understand a profit and loss statement. They have 25 employees. They deal with the public. They market. Find me somebody in the White House who has that level of experience and can really comment on business. And that's a much lower level than we need. We need people with a much higher level of experience, and they're just not there. So I don't think the voice of the business community is being heard. Now, they do have some huge company CEOs that come in, but these are companies that have government contracts, that have to deal with the government, so you're not really getting that entrepreneurial spirit in what's going on in the White House. That spirit that everybody talks about Reagan. And Reagan just loved the entrepreneur. He loved the American businessman. And I think that, I don't care how many times he mentions Reagan's name, that isn't happening in the White House today.
Sure. And if you could wave your magic wand, 2 things that the government could simply do to make it easier for you to expand and grow your business, or other CEOs.
Well, one, this healthcare law has to be either repealed or significantly revised. That's number one. And number 2, there has to be some certainty on tax policy. And if you're going to tax us for growing, we're not going to grow. It's just a law of economics. Capital goes where it gets the best return. If you overtax it, it doesn't get the best return there. You go someplace else. So you find American companies going overseas. And so those were 2 things. And also a rational energy policy and a policy that didn't seem so supportive of unions. I don't hate unions or dislike unions, but I think employees and people in states need to decide whether they want unions or not the federal government. So if we worked on those 4 areas, I think you'd see huge growth in the economy.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Glad to do it, Brian. Thank you.
Appreciate it.